So the October event was mostly about the iPad, mostly about new iPads, mostly about the new Macs, and another big demonstration of iOS 8 and Yosemite, which were being released at about the same time. But if you had your Apple keynote bingo card in front of you, there were a lot of squares that went unfilled, a lot of things that you think that they would have or might have talked about, but absolutely didn't. Uh, a lot of people have been really antsy about getting a MacBook Air with a Retina display. We did get, of course, an iMac with a Retina display. But the reason why we got the iMac with a Retina display is that the iMac is plugged into AC power. The limiting factor, I think, for the idea of an Air with a Retina would be it's got to run on battery. Not only that, but this is the MacBook Air. It's supposed to run all day on a battery. It's kind of incredible how long lasting the 13-inch MacBook Air is. It's so much that not only can you run it pretty much an entire workday on battery, but you can forget to plug it in and then not be totally screwed the next morning. You collapse into your hotel bed, just drop the iPad, drop your MacBook Air on the nightstand, forget to plug it in, or okay, let's be honest. You've got a MagSafe 2 connector. You plugged it in, but then unfortunately you turned on the air conditioning, and so the air actually dislodged it, so it didn't actually recharge. You will still be able, when you rush out, check out of your room the next morning and rush to the airport, you will still probably be able to watch a full movie on the plane on the way over there, or still on the way home, or still get some work done on that 3-hour flight. That's how good the battery is, and they absolutely do not want to compromise that by putting a Retina display inside there. So that's not going to ship until they can solve that problem. I also wonder, being as somebody, of course, from the point of view of someone who does know, computer hardware marketing, and not really interested enough to know a lot of people inside Apple or other companies that do a lot of marketing. I also wonder what that would do to the product lineup if they had now. Here is a $1,300 Retina grade MacBook Pro, and here is the $1,300 to $1,400 Retina grade MacBook Air. Because already the differences between a MacBook Pro and a MacBook Air, screen aside, are really hard to navigate. Now that they're both sealed up machines, now that neither of them can have the MacBook Pro, quote pro unquote, can't have high capacity hard drives. They have to go with relatively low capacity or very, very expensive solid state. You have to really have a good. It's a fuzzy line as it is. You add in Retina to the mix, so now you're talking about having the MacBook Air Pro. How do you convince someone to spend $50 extra on a MacBook Pro, or even $50 less for a MacBook Pro, when you have a Retina screen on the MacBook Air? I'm not even going to speculate what that should be, because I don't know anything about marketing. But it's Apple, old Apple. I'm talking about old Apple as of 3 years ago. They used to have a very, very clean product line where it was very, very easy to make a decision of what machine to get. If you tossed a ping pong ball into that carnival game, it would settle into one jar and one jar only every single time, because it's so clear. Now the jars are so closely spaced together. There'll be such slight differences between these two machines that you could go into either one and you might be slightly unhappy with one or slightly unhappy with the other. So that's a confusing point. I'm not necessarily eager to see a Retina MacBook Air, because I think that it's already well covered, but they're certainly interested in it. I don't know of any rumors about scheduling on a Retina MacBook Air either, so I'm sure they're working on it. I'm sure they've built several of them, but it's going to wait until they can get at least 10 hours of battery on a Retina model MacBook Air and keep it just as thin. Let's see. There's also people have been wondering about a 12-inch 12-inch MacBook Airs. Okay, that might be a way to make it smaller and also to differentiate it from the 13-inch MacBook Pros. That's something I certainly understand and can certainly get behind. They can't compromise the keyboard any more than they already have, though, because that's a comfort point that if they lose that, then there's almost no point in selling it anymore. So we'll talk about that. But 12 inches is mostly talked about when it comes to a new jumbo-sized iPad. The regular-sized iPad Air is now 9.7 inches, always has been. So what would they do with a 12-inch screen or even a 13-inch screen on an iPad if they did an iPad Pro sort of thing? I would love to see that, but only if they were to really go the pro route. If they were to emphatically say that there are a whole bunch of people that are using their iPads as their primary computer right now, and there are some sacrifices that they have to make in order to use it that way. We've decided to eliminate all those things and address those and appeal to those people by making a machine, an iPad with not only a larger screen that is also a Retina display that has that wonderful 12-hour battery life, but we're also going to introduce a new version of Mac OS, excuse me, of iOS 8.2, 8.3 now supports full screen multitasking. So if you want to pin part of your Twitter client or your email client to the side of the screen, you can have both apps simultaneously. You can even tile multiple apps, and we have a new set of APIs that we've actually been working on. They have been working on ways of convincing developers that, look, we are telling you right now, you want to develop apps that can be resized. Don't hardwire in and do device checks. Say, okay, well, I'm running on an iPad Mini, and an iPad Mini is this size, so we're going to target this size screen for this interface. No. You want to develop an interface that can be resized by the operating system on the fly. And I hope that is a nod towards, in the future, wanting to do this sort of tiled interface. That would be ironic, given that the Windows 1.0, the one that was really certainly just a response and a ripoff of macOS, to avoid being sued by Apple, they decided not to have windows that overlapped, and so everything was tiled. So if you launched the Notepad, you would have it operate as a split screen sort of thing. If you put in another app, then it would simply be 4 tiles, 3 tiles. That would work really, really great for an iPad, and that's what I would really love to see. Because again, the main pain point of using an iPad as a productivity device is that you want to switch between your web browser to look something up or get some piece of information and the word processing document. It is just, you have to take your hands off the keyboard. You have to do this, that, and the other. You have to make sure that you've got in your mind the thing that you wanted to collect and then go back to this other screen. It's really just much too difficult. I would also really hope to see a actual pressure sensitive stylus attached to this. What a bummer that Apple is losing a whole bunch of Mac users to Windows, because there is such a thing as the Surface, Microsoft Surface, that has a beautiful more than 1,000 point of sensitivity stylus, originally with Wacom technology, as a matter of fact. And so there are artists that you can draw directly on this screen, and it works great with great precision and with great flair and great creativity. The iPad, you have to learn how to really draw with your fingertips, or accept that you're going to be using either a dumb stylus like this that can give you essentially blunt crayon control of what's going on, or a Bluetooth stylus that is better but still not as good as what you can get on the Microsoft Surface. So there's certainly a lot of potential here with the iPad, making a larger screen iPad, but it's something where it's almost as complicated as introducing a watch, where you don't just release it and say, here is a new size of iPad. I think they would have to say, here is a new size of iPad built specifically to make a specific kind of iPad user happy, and here's what we have added in order to make those kind of users happy. Can't wait to see it myself. Don't know if we're going to see it next year, but I would love to see it. I'm not going to. I hope they call it the iPad Pro. There have been jokes about what they would call it, or comparing it to a sanitary disposable item. That's not a funny joke, and that was made when the iPad was originally introduced. So let's get rid of that. Let's see. Let's see. They didn't talk about the Apple TV, which is looking more and more long on the tooth with every passing month. It's almost a point of embarrassment for Apple. I can't think of the last time that Apple has had a product in the product line that was so completely outclassed by every competing product that there's almost no reason for me to recommend it to anybody. I'll even go beyond that. I mean, if you're considering buying an Apple TV today, don't. I mean, why would you want one? The only thing that it brings to the party is AirPlay, which is very, very nice, but not unique, because there is a Chromecast from Google has created the Chromecast standard that can allow a lot of mobile apps, not just ones that run on Android, to connect to a lot of different TV apps, not just ones that are running on the Chromecast dongle. For instance, I've got my Roku 3 box. The YouTube app on that is a receiver for Chromecast content, so I can be using the YouTube app on my iPhone and connect to this not Apple attached TV device to stream stuff directly to that. It's very, very slow. It's non-responsive. There's so many times I can't remember the last time that I did something on Roku and saw any sort of a wait icon. I never got to see we're validating you right now. Hang on a sec. We have to make sure you are who you are. The level of content that's available on Roku and other devices is amazing compared to what you can get on the Apple TV. There's just, the remote is just junk. Hang on. I wasn't preparing for this, but yeah, look at this. It's just, it's stylish. And it fits inside the tiny box that Apple wants to ship Apple TV in, but there's not enough stuff on this, and this thing gets lost immediately. I mean, the first thing that you do with an Apple TV is to either get your universal remote and program it for these codes, or it is actually possible on the Apple TV to train your existing real remote to send the right codes. There's actually a technical note for that. If you go to support.apple.com and look underneath the Apple TV stuff, you can actually do that, because this is kind of crap. And also, it's infrared, so you have to aim it directly at the thing. The Roku is Wi-Fi, so you don't. Not only is it big, not only is it very, very comfortable to hold, but you don't even have to point it at the screen. I'm saying that there's no reason to buy an Apple TV, and there are plenty of reasons for me to discourage you from even considering it. Now, has Apple forgotten about the Apple TV? Do they not care? Is this thing going to be canceled soon? No, of course not. It's way too important to what Apple is about right now. The ability to take all the content that you've been creating and buying on your phones and tablets and desktops and use it on the most convenient, big, huge HD TV that you have in your living room. So this is why I think that they're not going to do an incremental update to it. When they finally update it, it's going to be like the Mac Pro, where the cheese grater, big steel tower Mac Pro they've been selling for years was it looked like it had been ignored for years and years and years. And when they finally updated it, it wasn't that, well, we gave it the latest Intel processors and we've increased the bus speed and we've added new Thunderbolt ports. It's no, our whole idea was we're going to throw out what we've done before and do something completely new that has that name, that fulfills that role, but does it in a much, much better way. So I'm certain that when Apple updates Apple TV, and it certainly has to happen next year, if it hasn't happened this year, it's going to be a brand new device. It's going to have a brand new role to play, and it's going to be much, much more powerful and much, much cooler. Because not only that, but HomeKit is another thing that Apple really was stressing during WWDC. This is the ability of the Mac and the iOS devices to interact with smart light bulbs and smart appliances and Internet of Things sort of things. That's been delayed a little bit. We haven't heard much about it, even though Yosemite has now shipped and iOS 8 has now shipped. But think about the role of the Apple TV. Here is a low-power device that is always in the same place in your house, that is always on 24/7 and connected to the Internet. Can you think of a better device that Apple makes that would be the hub for all those HomeKit sort of experiences? This is the device that will listen to your thermostat and listen to your smoke detector and listen to the moisture detector in your basement, and make sure that if there's anything that's important that needs to be sent to you, that's the device that talks to your phone and make sure you get the correct alert, or keeps track of that data, and so that when you need that data, it's not being piped into your iMac 24/7, but the iMac, when it wants to, or your phone, when it wants to get that data, it gets it off of the Apple TV. That's the sort of thing that's perfectly natural. So we'll see something big from that soon. I'm sorry we haven't seen it yet, but that's certainly going to be coming. Let's see, what else? I guess that the only other thing that was missing is still no mention whatsoever of Beats. Isn't that kind of weird? This is the highest profile, and I think even the most expensive acquisition Apple has made. I'm trying to think if Apple ever paid more than that for any other company. I'm coming up with a blank. So it's either number one, or if it's not number one, it's close to number one. And such a high-profile company making products that integrate so well with Apple's product line and plan. They make headphones, and Apple makes things that you plug headphones into. That's a natural. They have a streaming service that hasn't really made any sort of a dent, with subscriptions in the hundreds of thousands as opposed to the millions. But Apple has the iTunes Store, and they have iTunes Radio, and so they would certainly like to have a subscription service. You would think that by now they would at least, if not shipping headphones with the Apple logo on, or updating the Beats logo to put a little bit of a leaf on it, maybe they would at least be saying, oh, and by the way, we're announcing that next year we're going to be we're doing Beats music, Beats Radio by Apple, or Apple Radio by Beats, and here's how we're going to be introducing it. Here's how we're going to be integrating it. Here we're during this 90-minute keynote we're doing in October, in which we have time to do an extended comedy bit with Stephen Colbert. We're going to have Jimmy Iovine. We're going to have Dr. Dre up here at least to say hello. But no, not a single peep. And it's the only presence that Beats has made is in the iPhone 6 rollout. The Beats Music app was one of the pre-installed apps on all the demo phones. I thought that maybe that means that they're going to ship it on the iPhone 6. That was not good to be the case. And they've made jokes about when they make phone calls showing how continuity and handoff works, that, okay, we'll call Dr. Dre. Okay, good. That's nice. So you're acknowledging these people exist, but you're not talking about is how they're going to factor into the future of Apple. Maybe there are business reasons why they have to do that, and maybe there's strategic reasons why not to do that, but it's starting to look damn weird. When U2 gets some time on stage, but not your most high-profile executives that you've just acquired and the company that you've just paid, amazing amounts of money for, that's a little bit weird. So that's really the only stuff that I was on the back of my mind that was sort of missing from the event. I don't think any of these omissions is suspicious, but it at least gives us an excuse to go in for one last session of speculation about what Apple's future plans might be. Because remember that the other thing about the October event is that this is Apple's last big event of the year. It's kind of like the last show before they pull down the circus tent and pack up for the winter. We will have we pundits and we people who are interested in Apple, we now basically have the rest of the year off. We are no longer required to speculate on stuff because most of the stuff we were speculating on, like the Apple Watch, has now been announced. It's not a secret anymore. And now things are going to be so quiet for so long, there's not even any point in talking about an Apple branded television set. Oops, didn't talk about that. Well, the reason why I didn't include that as something that Apple might have talked about is that, of course, they're not going to talk about it. It's not important. It seems like a dead issue at this point. So hopefully I get a vacation now from having to say, well, never say never with Apple, but I suppose that the reason why they're not really serious about this is, thank goodness, because you don't know how much stress this causes for people like me, because no matter how many times you bookend it with, well, of course, Apple can do just about anything, and if it's a real secret, then we will absolutely not know anything about it until it's time for them to announce it, and then I'll say, but here's what I think about an iPad that would be larger and how it would be, and if it's going to be imminent or not, and then I'll follow it by, but of course, these are just rumors, and you don't want to look too closely into the face of the Sphinx, because that's how sane men go bad. You never know if there's somebody taking notes, so that, if 3 years later, it's not a 12-inch iPad, it's a 12.7-inch iPad. Oh, hey, Andy, ready to eat your words? You said it was going to be 12 inches. I didn't say it was going to be 12 inches. I was speculating. Oh, come on. Why must you be the fuzz on my lollipop? There's some people, when I drop my lollipop, it lands in a bottle of crystal clear water. You're like the pet hair and the crap and the fuzz on the carpet that wants to make my lollipop all just inedible anymore. Why must you punch holes in my rowboat, is what I ask. It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard knock. Okay, I won't do the whole song. Thanks for watching.